The Michigan Man Podcast, episode 135. It's the Outback Bowl on January 1st for the Wolverines against 10-2 South Carolina. Michigan basketball undefeated and ranked number 3 heading into this week's action. And women's volleyball is off to the Sweet 16 next Friday in Berkeley, California to face the Michigan State Spartans. That and more on this week's show. This is the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine for Wolverine fans from coast to coast. Go Blue and welcome back to this week's show. I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Sunday we learned that the Wolverines will be headed to Tampa on January 1st to take on Coach Steve Spurrier and the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina 10-2 in the regular season with 2 very tough, very close losses. Kickoff on January 1st is at 1 p.m. Tickets went on sale Monday. The 11,000 tickets might already be gone as we are going to air today on Wednesday. We'll have more on that later on Wolverine Quick Hits. On our View from Section 17 today, other than the news about the Outback Bowl, a lot going on in the Michigan athletics scene. Men's basketball still undefeated, ranked number 3 in the nation heading into this week's action, and it's looking like it's going to be one exciting winter following the Wolverines. On the women's side, Coach Barnes-Arico has them playing very well early in the season. Hockey continues to struggle. We've seen this the last couple of years when the team gets out of the gate slow, and then you start to wonder right around Christmas time, right around the GLA, is this team going to be able to turn it around, win the CCHA, get back into the NCAA tournament, and keep that 23-year streak alive? For the last couple of years, they've been able to turn the switch and really turn it around after Christmas, but that is playing with fire, and you wonder if they are going to be able to do that this year with so many young players. Next week, we're going to get Yostmeister on, who is our feature hockey guy, excellent writer here at GBMW, Go Blue Michigan Wolverine, and we'll see what is happening with Coach Red Berenson and his Wolverines. So mark that on your calendar. That's next Wednesday's show. We finally talk some Michigan hockey. The other big news this week is women's volleyball. The Lady Wolverines will be out in Berkeley in the Sweet 16 this Friday, and they have to go all that way to the West Coast to play the Michigan State Spartans. Another great year for the volleyball team, and again, we'll have more details on that for you coming up later in the show on Wolverine Quick Hits. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to kind of turn our attention to basketball and hockey, and then at the end of the month, we'll have a couple of bowl preview shows, and we will let you know well in advance who is going to be on that show and the actual dates. But for today, let's talk hoops. Our guest is going to be Michigan beat writer Rod Beard from the Detroit News. That is coming up next, right here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. Back with us to talk some Michigan hoops this year, Rod Beard from the Detroit News. Rod, great to have you back.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I think most of us are up to speed with what's been happening so far with the very hot number 3 rated Wolverines. Question I have right off the top, though, Rod, is a lot of us wondered when it would happen, but Nick Stauskas was inserted into the starting lineup on Saturday against Bradley. To say he's been an early season surprise would be an understatement, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's you looked at Glenn Robinson III as maybe the guy who was the catalyst for this turnaround and really the reemergence of Tim Hardaway as being the things that you really saw that said, wait a minute, this is a different team from last year. But you had to have that outside shooting element, and Stauskas has really brought that with the ability to shoot from outside and also to put it on the floor and take it to the rack. So you really have to figure out how to guard him. And with the addition of Stauskas to that starting lineup, with everything else that's going on, with Burke's ability to shoot and to drive, with Hardaway's ability to do the same, and now Robinson's ability to rebound and to drive and score, there are just too many different options on offense for opposing coaches to really worry about it. And I think that's the difference in that starting lineup now. They've played him as a sixth man and played him in that rotation quite a bit, but now in that starting lineup, you get about 5 or 6 good minutes of a time where you've got to jet out to a pretty good lead because you've got all your options on the floor at the same time.
Now, I think, Rod, something else that surprised me, I mean, I had seen some video clips of him before he got here, but that he puts it on the floor and takes it to the hole pretty well and is maybe a little bit better defensive player than I thought, too.
Yeah, and that's how you're going to make it in a John Beilein team anyway, is being able to play defense. You're going to score. You're going to find ways to score. He's going to draw up a play that for whoever's on the floor to be able to make some points. But you got to be able to get a stop to follow up that score, and that's how you build your lead is score, stop, and you've got to have some momentum with that. He's been a better defender than maybe they thought, and Glenn Robinson III has been just as good. And so when you've got Hardaway, Robinson, Stauskas on the floor at the same time, you've got Jordan Morgan, who's really developed and really turned into a serviceable big man where coming out of high school, he just wasn't heralded at all. He might have, I mean, people talk about 4-star, 5-star guys. He might have been a 2-star guy because he wasn't really heavily recruited. But in John Beilein's offense, there's a way to use a Jordan Morgan, and they really pulled the most out of him that they could.
Rod, let's talk about some of the other freshmen other than Stauskas who are contributing already. Let me throw some of these names at you. Glenn Robinson III, he looks like the real deal already, isn't he?
He's built. I mean, he has a Tim Hardaway type build, but he's a little bit bigger. He weighs a little bit more, so they can play him at the power forward spot. And you see the difference where Zach Novak had played so long at that position and been undersized and kind of overmatched with anybody that he's playing. But now Glenn Robinson III, as he's growing into that position at 6'6", with a pretty muscular build, he can play against some of those guys. He can't play the Trevor Mbakwe's of the world and the Derek Nixes of the world, but he can stay for a few minutes and not get into foul trouble. He can guard smaller guys depending on your rotations, and he can do some different things for you. So he's really been surprising in that not only can he score when needed, but he's also a great rebounder and a really good defender. And that's what they needed from that power forward spot, so they don't have to play McGarry and Morgan or Horford and Morgan, but they can when they want to. So they're not forced into playing a particular lineup because he's so versatile.
Well, then we have Mitch McGarry. Not a lot of points, but he's a big body with big hustle, isn't he?
Yeah, I may have mentioned it to you last year that they don't need him to come in and be an immediate impact guy, not from a statistical standpoint. He just has to come in and be tough and get 4 or 5 or 6 rebounds. If he averages 6 points and 6 rebounds for the remainder of the year, Michigan will stay a top 5 team and will make some noise. They've just got to have something off the bench to complement what Morgan brings and what Horford brings, and McGarry does that. He's not completely polished offensively, and he makes some mistakes. He's prone to a lot of foul trouble. But keep in mind, he's still a freshman, and freshman big men are usually the slowest to come along because there's so much they have to learn. They're not just these big plotters who stay in the middle and stay in the paint and don't do anything. He's got to set picks. He's got to do a lot of stuff on offense. Now he's got to come back on defense and chase guys around. He's got to show on the other team's pick and roll and hedge out. There's more to big men than there ever used to be, and now he's starting to show some ability to do some of those things. But on an offensive end, he just gets you 2 or 3 offensive rebounds a game, and that's extra possessions. And if you can kick that out and get a score from one of your main scoring guys, that's all you really need from Mitch McGarry. You don't need him to be anything incredible. And I think when he was ranked number 2 in the country, that's what the expectations were that he would come in and be the next Chris Webber or be something a little bit more than what he is. And people have seen he's a hustling guy. He goes after loose balls. He gets you an extra possession. He does just those little things that may not show up in the stat sheet, but they're very, very valuable in a John Beilein system.
Well, another guy is Spike Albrecht, and I think a lot of us at the end of the season last year when Spike was added, when, of course, we didn't know if Trey Burke was coming back or not, we thought, well, maybe that's a nice throw-in. But he's looking right now like he's going to be a pretty nice backup for Burke.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you said it right. He looked like just kind of a throw-in guy that, hey, we need a body that we can have out there who can run the offense. Not only does he know how to run the offense, he has some familiarity with McGarry and with Robinson in that he played with them in AAU. So he understands what their strengths are, where they want the ball, how to get them the ball. And really being Burke's understudy, who else in the country do you want to study behind at the point guard position than Burke? And he's shown that he's not lost out on the court. He knows the plays. He knows where he's supposed to be. He can make a big shot when needed. In that exhibition opener, I think he had 16, 18 points. He can score when needed, but on this team, you don't need to because you've got so many different weapons out there on the wings and on the perimeter that you don't need to, as a point guard, come in and score 18. Burke has shown that same ability in that NC State game where scoreless for the first half, and then he kind of flips the switch and says, okay, now it's time to score. So from a point guard, you can see where it would be a kind of a privilege to be able to be in this type of offense because you can do so many different things with all of those different weapons that you've got out there.
Well, the other freshman that has sort of jumped out at us in the last couple of weeks is Karis LeVert, who it looks like Coach Beilein is saying is too good to redshirt and really likes his the defense that he's getting from him, especially the fact that he can spell Tim Hardaway for 2, 3, 4 minutes a game.
Yeah, and coming out of the summer practices and things, that was the name that we heard, not from Beilein, but from the other players saying that he's an athletic kid, he can get out there and do some things. And in the first couple of exhibition games, we didn't see that translate on the floor necessarily offensively. But again, when you're on this team, you've got to pick and choose where your shots are. It's hard for one guy to come in and to be the star of this team. Even Hardaway, who's averaging 14, 16 points a game, he's got to defer sometimes to Burke. He's got to defer to Stauskas and now to Robinson. Maybe McGarry or Morgan gets hot in a game. There's so many different options that the pleasure is that no one has to come out and score 20. They obviously can. We've seen Stauskas do it the past 2 games, but no one needs to. And I think that's the difference between last year and the previous year and this year is that there's so many more options. You don't have to be Tim Hardaway and be a volume shooter that he was last year and the year before. Now you can come in, you take the shots that are there, that are in rhythm, that are within the flow of the offense. And I think that's what's making them all better players, is that no one has to do more than they're really able to do. No one has to force a shot because the offense creates something that's there. Karis LeVert is just a talented kid. At 6'5", he's got a pretty big wingspan, but he's a guy, like you said, who comes in and spells Hardaway a little bit and gives him another body out on the floor, an athletic kid. And Hardaway doesn't get a lot of rest. And last year we saw where Burke needed rest because he was playing 37, 38 minutes a game. Now when you bring in a Spike Albrecht and a Karis LeVert, now you can give Hardaway and Burke a little bit more rest because you feel comfortable that those guys know what they're doing. They're able to continue what you have on the floor already. And that's going to pay dividends when you get down toward the end of the Big Ten season, when you get into the NCAA tournament, and you talk about how much more rested these guys are, that they haven't hit that wall of having to play 37, 38 minutes a game. Now maybe you can get them down to 32, 33, and that 5 minutes a game really starts to add up over the course of the conference season, and when you talk about February and into March.
Rod, let's talk about the returning core of veterans for a couple of minutes, if we could, starting with Trey Burke. With more help around him, more options for him, he could have even a better year than he did last year, couldn't he?
Oh, I think he will. He's going to be a candidate for Big Ten Player of the Year. He probably will face a lot more stiff competition with a Deshaun Thomas from Ohio State and certainly a Cody Zeller in Indiana. But it seems like the game has slowed down for him. It seems like the Matrix where once he gets it, the light comes on, and he doesn't have to try to go too fast or make a spectacular pass or score or do anything else. He knows the defense has to respect everybody on the floor, so he can pass to the right option. He can drive when it's time to do that. And I think that NC State game where he didn't have any points in the first half and comes out in the second half with 18 points shows that he understands the game better. He trusts his teammates. He trusts the offense, that he won't worry about not scoring because he got 9 assists in the first half. But he sees things a little bit better. Things are slowing down for him. And I think he'll have a much better year this year statistically from a field goal percentage, and then when you look at assists as well.
Oh, I agree with you 100% on that. You know, when you think of a point guard, the classic point guard, last year he had to do so much shoulders, so much of the load. But to see how good he really is now that he has more weapons, he makes those other players around him even better, which is the mark of a great point guard.
And it doesn't seem forced is the key thing. He doesn't have to push anything, and he stays out of foul trouble, but he could play a little bit more aggressive defensively because with Spike Albrecht coming off the bench, Beeline's more comfortable with it. The team's more comfortable with it. There isn't a significant drop-off because, again, the focus of this team is not necessarily the point guard. It's the other players that are complementing that.
Well, next is Tim Hardaway Jr., and I know you and I talked about this last year. A lot of people talked about Tim during his struggles during the season. They being the defenders, were right out on him, and he just didn't seem to, go to the hole, get people off him so he could get that jumper off. It looks to me, at least through the first 7 games this year, like he is really rounding out his game. He is much more of a complete player.
Yeah, he and Trey Burke both talked about how during the summer going to the Amari Stoudemire or the Darren Williams camp or the LeBron James camp, all of these summer camps that they went to with some of the other prominent national players really showed them how other people prepare, what some of the top guys do. And when you see that, you prepare your game a little bit differently and you do some things differently on the court. What we've seen this year from Hardaway is that he's shooting inside the arc quite a bit more than he did last year. He's going to the rack a little bit harder, again, because the defense has to respect the other guys on the floor. And if you've got to have a guy out on Stauskas, you've got to make sure you're glued to Burt, then that opens up the lane a little bit more. Morgan's a little bit better at setting that screen. So now Hardaway can get in, and he's been a little bit more athletic, a little bit more aggressive inside, and that's part of the difference for Michigan is that he's not that volume three-point shooter anymore where he shot his percentage went down so much last year. Now he can be more selective about that. He can take a rhythm three and a three in the flow of what he's doing instead of having to force that and feeling like he's the main scorer, he's the go-to guy, he's got to do something. And with Burke not having to feel that way, I think that's a weight lifted off of all of their shoulders, feeling like, hey, we've got a Stauskas now, we've got a Robinson, we've got other guys who can pick up some of this load. So now we don't have to do as much as we did last year, but we can be very focused and very selective about the shots that we take.
And the guy I love to watch play is Jordan Morgan. He is just your classic blue-collar, lunch bucket kind of guy in the paint, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's so unsung. He just doesn't get the credit that he maybe deserves for the things that he does. He'll box out, he'll set a screen, he'll try to pick and roll, and he's so quick now that you have to respect that role. You have to have a guy come over defensively and help out on his role because he's quicker than the other team's big guy. He's really rounded his body out and strengthened up and bulked up a little bit, but it's really quick weight. It's not strength weight. And so he's just a threat on that pick and roll to be able to do so much. Defensively, he gets in the right spots. He does little things that unless you're a real student of the game and you pay attention to, you really don't notice because you're looking at all of the other pieces around the floor moving and they're scoring and they're doing different things. But he's the other guy that on that dribble drive or on that pick and roll, he's the recipient of that. And again, you get 6 points, 6 boards from Jordan Morgan, you're more than happy because he's doing the stuff that you need to do that help the other guys be better. And anything you get from him seems like it's just an extra contribution. It's icing on the cake. But he's so unheralded, and he never really gets the credit for where he came from in terms of his ability, his body, the shape of his body and the things that he did with it. And now how he comes in and he grabs rebounds with 2 hands. He's really stronger and more aggressive. And as a junior, he now sees things a little bit differently. And I think as each of these guys is developing, they're seeing the game a little bit better and understanding what their role in it is.
And we've talked about the freshman impact, the core returning veterans, and we can still get minutes from Bielfeldt, McClemens, Vogridge, and Acuna. We still have them to throw in the mix.
Yeah, and those are guys that understand the offense and what they need to do. But I think now with Beeline saying he's burning Karis LeVert's red shirt, and he's going to start Nick Stauskas. I think that's his way of saying, I'm going for it right now. I don't have to rely on Eso Acuna. I don't have to rely on Blake McClymonds, but I know I have a John Horford if I need him. But these guys are my most talented guys. There's no need to redshirt these guys because I see how much talent I have. We're going for the Big Ten championship, the national championship, or a really nice run in the NCAA tournament. We're going for it all this year because we have a Matt Vogridge who's a senior, and really the only senior that's consistently in the rotation. But if you think about that and how many of these guys might be around next year, this isn't just a one-year wonder. And last year wasn't sort of this splash, and that's really going to be it, and maybe you do something this year. They're really set up to be consistently in the Big Ten race for the next couple of years, at least the next 2 or 3 years.
Our guest today is Rod Beard, who covers Michigan basketball for the Detroit News. Rod, you mentioned in your Sunday article in the Detroit News that last year Michigan got outmuscled by Ohio State and Michigan State, and they got out-hustled by Indiana. With the talent, the depth, and the size this team now has, that shouldn't happen this year, should it?
No. And part of that is when you have a healthy John Horford, you have McGarry that we talked about, and you have Morgan. Now you have a Bielefeld and a McClymonds that you can bring in. Now they're just so versatile. They can play so many different ways where if you wanted to play Glenn Robinson III at power forward, you could do that. But if you move them down to the small forward and play Stauskas or Hardaway at the 2 and Burke at the 1, I mean, you can play a double post. They've got so many different ways that they've been trying to tinker around and play with things and see. Against this team, we can do that. And certainly against Minnesota, a team like Minnesota, a team like Michigan State, Ohio State, that brings in the big package, the jumbo package, if you will, they can play that. They can also play a smaller running team a different way, maybe a Northwestern, a Michigan State when they try to go small. You have all of those pieces now where you can play any style that you want to play, and it's not just guys who are coming in and playing 2 or 3 minutes. These are guys who have played volume minutes all throughout the year because now you're so versatile. You can do anything that you want to do. You can press with guys. You can play the 1-3-1 with these guys. You can do a double post. You can run motion. I mean, the possibilities are really endless for what Beilein can do offensively, and now he's got the guys who can do it. And now it's just really giving them repetition in that so that they're really ready when you get down to those situations.
I'm glad you mentioned John Horford. I overlooked him when we were going over the returning core veterans. You mentioned that it's almost an embarrassment of riches right now in the post for Michigan with Horford and Jordan Morgan, and you've got McClymonds who can come in, and of course Mitch McGarry. They are really stocked up well there.
Oh, absolutely, and you'll need that when maybe you get in the NCAA tournament and you need those 20 fouls to be able to because some team has a dominant big man. Even when you play Indiana and Cody Zeller just goes wild, you've got fouls that you can use. It was a different team last year without Horford, without Bielefeld. You had Zach Novak playing out of place as a power forward. You didn't have McGarry. Now, just those bodies there, and McGarry's a 6'10" guy who can just go in there and get rebounds or dive for a loose ball or do things. When people watch the Michigan games now and they say this is a different team, this is a fun team to watch, I think that's part of what they mean is that it's not the team that gets pushed around and bullied around that we've seen in so many previous years. Now it's a team that's going after the ball, that's making shots, that hits the three-pointer, that looks like they're having fun. And they just didn't look very much like in previous years, like they were having fun because they knew kind of they were overmatched, they were outmanned, they couldn't do certain things. They needed that one piece. And McGarry could be that one piece, but now you've added a Stauskas and a Robinson. You've added complementary pieces around that are really the keys to this team, and you're better at every position than you were last year, not just because of growth and that extra year of experience, but now you've added talent and you've added depth. That makes us a really dangerous team, not just in the Big Ten, but when you start talking about the NCAA tournament, too.
Well, we've got 6 more non-conference games, Rod, before the start of the Big Ten season, and that gives Coach Beilein still plenty of time to tinker with the lineup, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is where he gets to see how much can Karis LeVert really do? What other ways can we use Mitch McGarry? I thought at the beginning of the year he might try to get McGarry in the starting lineup just to add that bulk. But again, he can experiment with that and say, no, we have to have Glenn Robinson III on the floor. We need to have him somewhere there. You've seen how valuable Nick Stauskas can be, but there are other ways that they can mix and match and see. And I think this is the key time of the season where he can see what types of things guys can do and how much he can push guys. How many minutes can I give this guy before his quality of play starts to go down or he starts taking ill-advised shots? You know what you have out of your core veterans. Now with some of these freshmen, you've got to see that. But again, you don't want to push these guys too hard because once you get into February and March, you don't want their legs to be gone. And we saw that with Trey Burke, the prime example of that last year with Burke, how you don't want to just grind freshmen into the ground because that's the only option you have. Luckily for Beilein, he doesn't have to do that with any of these guys. And I think you'll see enough of Stauskas coming out for Vogrich. You'll see Robinson going out. And you'll see Horford and Bielefeld and some of those other guys starting to get more minutes because some of these games will be kind of lopsided by halftime or midway through the second half, that he won't have to push all of those buttons, but now you can start getting some more experience and seeing what these guys do.
Well, Rod, it's early in the season, but with the addition of these talented freshmen we've been talking about to an already solid core of returning players, it's going to be fascinating to see how good this team will be by February or March when they've had more time together to gel, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be an exciting ride, I think, because in the Big Ten, it won't be, hey, let's see if they can grind out this game against Iowa or if they can go into Illinois and get this win. You would think that they would be favored in just about in most of their Big Ten games, except maybe Indiana, Michigan State, at Michigan State that one game, and then at Ohio State. You would think most of the other teams they'd be able to get by. But again, that's the fun of the season. You got to play the games, and in college kids' heads, you just don't know what's rattling around or what's going on in that particular day or that weekend or how that practice week went. So it's going to be interesting to see. But again, it's fun to watch now. You feel like, as a Michigan fan, that you have an opportunity in every one of these games, and now they're back in the national conscience. And when they play that game at Indiana, that's the ESPN featured game. I mean, that's a nationally featured game, which could be with two of the top 5 teams in the country again. So for a Michigan fan, it's a great time to be back. And with the football season over, now you're looking at basketball as kind of the icing on the cake, or maybe even the main course now, because you were disappointed in football, now you've got something else to latch on to.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. It's going to be a fun winter, and Rod Beard has been our guest today from the Detroit News, who covers Wolverine basketball. It's going to be a great winter, and we look forward to having you back on soon, Rod, to talk more about it.
Anytime. It's always a pleasure.
It's always great to have Michigan beat writer Rod Beard on the show from the Detroit News. Rest assured we will have Rod back several times during the season this year on our Michigan Game Day segment. Coming up next, we have some fan feedback for you. I think, as we all know, since the Ohio State game, there's been talk up here and down in Columbus about there not being a handshake after the game between Coach Brady Hoke and Coach Urban Meyer. Up here, we've heard the explanations from Coach Hoke and the Michigan media folks about that, and it makes sense to us. It was just crazy on the field after the game, and the police got Coach Hoke off the field pretty fast. We know how it gets down there after a win in Columbus. But anyway, it's been more of a hot-button topic down in Columbus, and we had a call about that on our listener line this week from Allison, who is with the University of Michigan Family and Fans Group, which is a Facebook group, and here are Allison's thoughts.
Good morning, and Go Blue. I'm leaving a comment on the Ohio State-Michigan game where it's been mentioned Coach Hope did not shake Urban Meyer's hand after the game. I just wanted to say that I have seen comments where he did shake his hand, but more so I've seen comments where, because of the fans rushing the field, Coach Hoke was escorted off the field with the police in a hurry. It is known that Ohio State can be a hostile environment, especially after a big win like last weekend. And I do believe in my heart that Coach Hoke was escorted off the field and shook Coach Meyer's hand when he was able to do so. Coach Hoke represents the University of Michigan, and the University of Michigan would not condone bad sportsmanship like that, and I just think it's ridiculous, all these comments that he wasn't a good sport. That is not Coach Hoke. I have met him in person, and I don't think he's willing to risk being ridiculed back at home at the university, as well as all these outrageous comments from fans. So I just wanted to leave that comment. As always, Go Blue.
Thanks for the call, Allison. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your comments. Anything you would like to get off your mind, whether it be about football, the upcoming bowl game, recruiting, hockey, basketball, anything. Just give us a call at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. If you don't have a pen handy to jot that down, I will post it for you on our show notes page. So again, we would really enjoy getting more fan feedback calls, so give us a call at 313-263-4842. We just ask you to give us your name, tell us where you're calling from, and then keep it PG. Coming up next, we wrap it up for another week with Wolverine Quick Hits here on the Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. On Wolverine Quick Hits today, the University of Michigan football team earned a bid to play in the 27th Annual Outback Bowl against number 11 South Carolina on Tuesday, January 1st. That, of course, was announced over the weekend. The game will be televised nationally by ESPN starting at 1 p.m. from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. The University of Michigan happily accepts the invitation to play in the Outback Bowl on New Year's Day, said Dave Brandon. We are honored to represent the Big Ten in Tampa. Our team worked very hard this season, and this is a reward for their effort. It's a great way to send out the seniors on Team 133. Michigan, 8-4, 6-2 in the Big Ten, finished the regular season in second place in the Legends Division. The Wolverines are ranked 19th in the Associated Press Media Poll and 22nd in the USA Today Coaches Poll. Team 133's losses came to number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 23 teams in the AP poll. Those four squads posted a 46-4 record during the season. South Carolina, 10-2, 6-2 in the SEC, finished the regular season in third place in the SEC's Eastern Division. The Gamecocks are listed 10th in the USA Today Coaches Poll and rank 11th in the AP poll. The Wolverines are 1-1 all-time against the Gamecocks, losing 17-14 at home in 1980 and prevailing 34-3 in Columbia during the 1985 season. So it's the Outback Bowl on January 1st, and the last 2 weeks of December, we will have our bowl preview shows, so we will remind you again in the coming weeks about that. In basketball news, freshman guard Nick Stauskas scored a career-high 22 points, including 12 from behind the arc, to help lift the University of Michigan men's basketball team over Bradley, 74-66 on Saturday afternoon. The Wolverines 7-0 on the season. Actually, as we tape the show tonight, they are entertaining the Western Michigan Broncos, so they could easily be 8-0 as of this evening. In women's basketball, behind senior guard Kate Thompson's second 20-point performance of the season and an early 10-0 second-half run, the University of Michigan women's basketball team got back in the win column, claiming a 59-53 victory over Florida on Saturday afternoon at Chrysler Center. Leading the U of M offense was Thompson with 21 points on 7 of 14 shooting from the field. Joining her in double figures was senior forward Rachel Sheffer, who scored 13 points on 6 of 8 shooting and grabbed 3 rebounds. A complete performance was turned in by senior guard Jenny Ryan, who netted 9 points, hauled down 7 boards, and dished out 5 assists, while junior forward Nia Jordan grabbed a season-high 11 rebounds in addition to scoring 3 points. For the game, Michigan shot 42.9% from the floor, 21 for 49, including 47.6%, 10 for 21 in the second half. The U of M defense held Florida to a 30.3% clip, 20 for 66 in the contest, while Florida held a slim 40-38 edge on the board. Wolverines now 6-2 heading into action tonight against Illinois State. In hockey action over the weekend, Michigan split a pair up in Big Rapids, losing 5-0 on Friday night. Then on Saturday night, Michigan jumped out to a 3-1 first period lead before needing a shootout to grab the win. After playing to a 3-3 tie, the Wolverines won that shootout 3-2, with Luke Moffitt scoring the deciding goal in the fourth round. Wolverines have a bye week this weekend. Next weekend, they will be back in action at Yostmeister Arena against Western Michigan. Michigan right now 5-8-2 overall on the season. And again, next week, our guest on the show is going to be Yostmeister, our very fine hockey writer from right here at GBM Wolverine, and we will talk about what's happening with this struggling Michigan team. In other big news on the Michigan athletic scene, Michigan Volleyball will be playing in the Sweet 16 for the second straight season after knocking off number 9 Louisville in 4 sets on Friday at the KFC Yum Center in Louisville. Juniors Lexi Irwin and Molly Toon, as well as fifth-year senior Claire McElhaney, notched double-digit kills to send U of M to Berkeley, California this Friday in the regional semifinal against Michigan State. So Spartans and the Wolverines have to travel all the way out to Berkeley in the Sweet 16, and that again will take place this Friday evening. So congratulations to the Lady Wolverines, and the best of luck against the Spartans in the Sweet 16. Don't forget to become a member here at GBMW. Visit www.gbmwolverine.com and sign up for membership today. Benefits include email reminders when a story is published or a mailbag question is answered. You also need to become a member for full participation on our always interesting message board. As a member here on GBMW, you can also take part in our popular Monday Night Live chat with E-Rock Wolverine, Coach BT, Maze Man, Doc for Blue, World's Wolverine, and our hockey guru, Yostmeister, who again will be on next week's show with us. The Monday Night Live chat takes place at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Check it out. So join GBMW today and get your daily fix of Maize and Blue news and conversation. Then each Wednesday you can listen to the Michigan Man podcast. The show is now available as an Android app, which can be purchased from the Android App Store at Amazon.com. If you're an Apple person, you'll find our app in the Lipson toolbox at the iTunes App Store. If you listen to the show on your Apple device, please take 1 minute to give us a review. It really does help a lot. Our listener lines are open 24/7 for your comments, like the one we heard from Allison today. If you'd like to have your Maize and Blue opinion heard, give us a call at 313-263-4842. Then leave an audio with your thoughts on this football season, the upcoming bowl game, current basketball season, hockey, recruiting, anything that's on your mind. Just give us your name, tell us where you're calling from, and then take off. If you'd rather send us an email, our address is themichiganmanpodcast@yahoo.com. I welcome your thoughts and opinions on anything Maize and Blue, and I will have the telephone number and the email address on my show notes page if you don't have a pen or a pencil handy to jot that down. Thanks again to our guest today, Michigan basketball beat writer Rod Beard from the Detroit News. Next week, our guest will be hockey writer Yostmeister from right here at GBM Wolverine, so we hope you'll be back here next week to talk hockey with us. So until next Wednesday, I'm your host, Mike Fitzpatrick. Take care, and as always, go blue. Thanks for listening to the Michigan Man podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine. You can find us on the web at www.gbmwolverine.com. That's www.gbmwolverine.com. For audio posts or other fan feedback, please call our listener line at 313-263-4842. That's 313-263-4842. Email fan feedback to the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. That's the Michigan Man Podcast at yahoo.com. The Michigan Man Podcast on GBMW Go Blue Michigan Wolverine is produced at the studios of Robin Lynn Productions, Allen Park, Michigan. The Michigan Man Podcast is not affiliated with the University of Michigan. Go Blue!